Now, if you keep the first precept, abstaining from taking life, that will also give you long life. Right? That is the consequence of it. If you take life, then the consequence of it is that you will shorten your life. But there's also another positive aspect of the first precept, which is not only do you refrain from taking life, but you also try to practice harmlessness, compassion, and loving kindness towards all beings. If you go to the toilet and then you see some ants inside the toilet bowl, then you say, oh, I'm keeping precept, so I'm not going to use this bowl. Now you leave the toilet and go to another toilet and use the bowl there which is without ants. But you don't bother to save the ants in the bowl. You kept your precept, but you did not practice loving kindness and compassion. So it must come together, both the positive and the negative. Yeah? Not only must you refrain from doing it, you must also do something positive to help beings. I'm sure you all have heard of Dr. Lai Chiu-nan, a Taiwanese who was brought up and educated in the US. She got a PhD in pharmacy, and she was working in a cancer ward in the US for a couple of years, and she found that conventional methods of chemotherapy and radiotherapy do not cure a patient of cancer, but actually make the patient suffer more. They are not real cures for cancer. So she decided to explore alternative ways of treating cancer. She gave up all these mainstream approaches and went into something more Chinese, like doing Qigong, going on vegetarian diet, and also practicing meditation. So I read one of her booklets where she talked about one of her patients who was already declared an incurable by mainstream medicine, came to see her, and she advised her on her approach, which is to be a vegetarian, practice Qigong, and meditating on the affected organ and sending loving kindness to that affected organ, visualizing that it is in its original healthy state. And in addition to that, she also advised them to release animals. So there were two cases. One case was one patient who was given only a few months to live by the doctors. So she said, okay, since I've only got a few months to live, I might as well go to Nepal and stay up in the hill, in the mountains, and die peacefully in a nice environment rather than dying in a concrete jungle. Yeah, so she went to Nepal. And when she was in Nepal, she met some Tibetan lamas, and they knew about her problem, and they chanted for her and asked her to do some chanting. They also asked her to do a lot of releasing of birds. She followed all their advice and instructions, and she lived beyond that 5 months that she was given. In fact, after that, she fully recovered from her disease. Then there is another case of someone in Montreal, in Canada. She also was having this problem, skin cancer. And Dr. Lai Chiu-nan advised her to do all these things and also to release animals. So what she would do is she would go to the pier and wait for the trawlers to come back. And then she would buy the whole trawler and release all the fish. And it worked, After some time, she recovered completely. But the problem is, after that, she went back to her old ways, went back to eat meat, and went back to a stressful occupation, and then got cancer again, relapsed. Second time, she did it again, and she recovered. Third time, she fell back again, and after that, it's too late. Cannot reverse it anymore. You see? So you need discipline. What is it that prevents you from being healthy? It's your craving, isn't it?